Welcome back to another UFC fight prediction video. In this video, I'll be predicting the prelim fights for UFC on ABC1, Holloway versus Kattar. So without further ado, let's get to our first fight on the prelims and our first fight on the card. So in our first fight, we have in the featherweight division, Jacob Kilburn versus Austin Lingo. So this fight between two guys who suffered defeats in their first UFC fight, both 0-1 in the UFC. Both got dominated in their debuts. Kilburn just completely got completely shut out, and Lingo at least held his own, but Zawada was in the driver's seat that whole fight. Whereas Kilburn got dominated like he didn't even know how to grapple against Billy Q. Billy Q took him down and did whatever he wanted to him, and then got him out of there. Austin Lingo at least went to a decision, at least had some moments in the fight. But really looking at this fight, I think both of these guys have similar. They both got some solid boxing. Both have some decent grappling. But I think Lingo's the better wrestler and the better grappler. And I think he's the better boxer. I think he packs more power. So, like, similarities, but Lingo is just better, in my opinion. I think he can beat Kilburn in every single area. Like I said, better striker, more power, better grappler, stronger, bigger, more physical. And I think that's going to be the case of it. And I think he's just going to be one step ahead this whole fight. And I see him beating Kilburn to a decision. So, in this fight, I have Austin Lingo via decision. Now on to our next fight we have in the women's bantamweight division, Sarah Moras versus Vanessa Melo. So look at this fight right here. Melo has more fights, but Moras has more fights against top-level competition and has been in UFC for longer, so I see her the more experienced fight. Like, Melo might have more fights, but Moras has more UFC experience and more top-level experience. And also, she has wins in the UFC, and Melo has 3 losses. But really looking at this fight, I think Melo's best shot in this fight would be striking. Like, be able to keep this fight on the feet and striking. But so far, she hasn't made a win. She's for a good competition. She hasn't been stopped, which is very good. Like, a very good feather, I guess, to have. It's never a good feather to be praising your losses or taking positive out of losses and say, oh, I didn't get knocked out, or I didn't get tapped out, or at least I was in these fights. But losing a loss is a loss, and being 0-3 against in the UFC against top competition. Yes, you only fought good competition, but still losing not a good thing. But for really looking at this one, I haven't seen enough from Melo, and I feel like Moras has been making improvements in her striking. Still not the best, so I see definitely Melo can have a chance in the striking. But like I said, I haven't been saying much from Melo in her striking or her grappling. And Moras, I would say, definitely is the better grappler in this one. But like I said, Melo could keep us on the feet, and she can at least strike pretty decently. She has a good shot at beating Moras, who's not the best striker, and is pretty one-dimensional for the most part. But looking at her takedown defense has not looked super phenomenal. I feel like Moras can find ways to get it to the ground, take it to where she has the advantage, and be able to grind out a decision over Melo. I think it's the prettiest fight, but I think it's a fight where a little bit sloppy on the feet, but Moras been able to find some takedowns, get some control time, and edge the decision. So in this one, I got Sarah Moras via decision. Now to our next fight we have in the welterweight division, David Zawada versus Ramazan Emeev. So look at them right here. I'm going to say straight off the back, I think Zawada's the better striker. People might say, oh, Emeev is this, Emeev is that. But really look at Emeev. Anytime he strikes, he does not look that impressive, especially when he's forced to strike. When he's able to mix it up, his striking looks pretty good. But when he's forced to strike, it does not look the best at all. Look at Tony Martin fight. He looked mediocre on the feet. Look at his last fight. Didn't look all that great on his feet either. Because when he's forced to strike, he don't look like the best striker. If he can get the fight to the ground and lay and pray and ground the pound when he wants, or wall and stall, then he'll look good because he could choose when to strike. But when he's forced to strike, he's striking not the best. So I don't know where people get this confused that he's some great striker. He's far from a great striker. And then we've seen Zawada in there with better strikers. We've seen him there with actual top level counters. Who has Emeev fought that was a good striker? Really, no one. I mean, who has he fought and beaten that was a good striker or looked good against a good striker? Never has he ever looked that great against a good striker unless he was able to really take him down. And it's not like he's fought the top level competition truly yet. The best guy he fought was really Tony Martin. You could say he fought Sam Alvey up at middleweight, but do we even rank Sam Alvey that high? Not really. But he's a very good fighter, underrated fighter, but slow, plotting, counter fighter. And all he did was wall and storm. He didn't really choose a strike with Sam Alvey. He held him against cage and went for takedowns. That was the whole fight. And Alvey didn't really do the best to get off the cage and make it a striking match. This was almost content to be held against cage. So, again, what has Emeev ever showed us about his striking? Nothing. Good striker, definitely not a slouch in the area, but nothing to say he's a standout or decent striker. I mean, decent to great striker. He's just all right. So against Zawada, we've seen Zawada against the Leech. We see him against Danny Roberts, and he's did some damage to both of them on the feet. But all that being said, how I see this fight is, I think Emeev can definitely hold his own with Zawada on the feet. I think Zawada is the better striker, but Emeev could definitely hold his own. And then he has the wrestling chops to get Zawada down. And unlike like Abukar Nurmagomedov, Emeev has much more savvy in the grappling, so I think he'll definitely shut down Zawada's submission attempts off his back. Constantly put him on the ground, push a pace, and smother him in that pace. Mix in the striking, get some takedown, get some control time, and neutralize the submissions of Zawada. And I see him grinding him out to a decision. So in this fight, I have Ramazan Emeev via decision. Now to our next fight, we have in the heavyweight division, Carlos Felipe versus Justin Tafa. So in this one, Tafa will have the tail of the tape, or he'll have the attributes as far as he's taller, a lot taller, longer reach, bigger. But I still think he's very green. Like, he looked good against whoever he fought again. I'm forgetting the guy's name right now, but the big wrestler he fought, he looked good against him. I don't think the wrestler really went for many takedowns until he got rocked, and by that point it was too late. But again, Justin Tafa, both of these fighters are guys that are very one-dimensional, don't have any grappling. They're very not the most technical fighters, almost barroom brawlers with some technique. And I think come down, I think Felipe has a tougher chin. I think he has a tighter fighting style than Tafa. Tafa swings some big looping hooks, lots of power. His technique's getting better. He's getting more comfortable in the cage, but he made some improvements from his first loss inside the UFC. But I still still too many wide looping shots. I think Felipe has a tighter fighting style. He's more durable, and he packs a lot of power as well. I think being shorter and getting on the inside, I think he's going to be able to have the advantage over Tafa and be able to land the cleaner, harder shots on the inside, because his punching style is tighter. It works the body well, and I think that works better over the course of a fight, taking the win out of himself, especially at heavyweight where they don't have much gas to begin with. I think Felipe's built tougher. I mean, built better for this fight, and his style will favor him in this fight. Whereas Tafa, I think the wide loop shots will come up short. I mean, not come up short, but they'll miss, overshoot, and Felipe's shots will be landed cleaner and shorter. I'm not saying this be no walk-through fight, but I just think overall that tendency is going to play to Felipe. I think in later rounds he's going to stop Tafa. So in this one, wear him down, bend in tight, landing the body shots, coming up top, and working that inside game and wearing out Tafa and stopping him late. And I think it happens like in the late part of that second round. So in this fight, I have Carlos Felipe via second round TKO. Now to our next fight, we have in the middleweight division, Omari Akhmedov versus Tom Breese. So look at this one right here. Akhmedov versus Tom Breese. I see this one. Breese has the height. I think he actually gives up the reach by like 2 inches. Or as a matter of fact, they have identical reaches, I believe. But height, he definitely has the advantage, like 5'11 versus 6'3. And I see this one. I think Akhmedov has the wrestling to cause issues for Tom Breese, but he doesn't have the grappling to really threaten anything on Tom Breese. So I feel like Tom Breese not going to have much issue getting taken down. If it goes to ground with Akhmedov, I think he can out-grapple Akhmedov off top or bottom, get back to his feet, and really pick apart Akhmedov, who really just has this sloppy style of this swinging big haymaker. I think he can pick him apart with his technical boxing, stick a jab in there, counter, and really take advantage of Akhmedov's sloppiness on his feet. You know, like I said, defend their takedowns for the most part, but goes to the ground, be the threat with submissions. And so I think Akhmedov could take him down, but I don't think Akhmedov have any threat for him on the ground. And really just Tom Breese being comfortable in this fight with a fighter who really can't do anything to him outside of swing, sloppy, and go for takedowns. And just pick him apart, make him gas himself out, make him spend his energy and take advantage of his sloppiness. And I think he puts him out in the second round via TKO. So in this fight, I have Tom Breese via second round TKO. Now to our co-prelim headliner, we have in the women's bantamweight division, Yanan versus Joseline Edwards. So look around, you got I'm gonna say two guys, but two women who are very similar in my opinion. And they're both solid talents. They're both very young, but they both kind of rely, they're both green and they rely a lot on strength, and sometimes that plays against them. I think Joseline Edwards is a little bit cleaner of a striker than Yanan. Yanan has a bit more experience at the top level, or at least in the top organization, whereas Edwards, we need to see more experience from her. But I was going to lean to Yanan, but really looking at Edwards, I think she has the raw materials that I think will blossom inside the UFC, and she could go on to be at least a decent level UFC fighter, but has a promising career ahead of her, and I think her style will favor her. Yanan is 5'8", Edwards is 5'6", even though most of the fights she's towering over her opponents. I think she has a frame that's kind of long, so even though she's 5'8" versus 5'6", probably gonna feel like 5'7" versus 5'8". She has the reach over Yanan, a 4-inch reach over Yanan, where Yanan has a 2-inch height advantage. I think reach would be important. I think how they grapple would be important. I think they both have solid grappling. I think Edwards might be the better grappler. And I think she's a more physical fighter. We saw Yanan lose to a fighter in Gina Mazzani, who's really not the most technical, but is more like a physical fighter and was able to get muscled around. I think Edwards will be able to have similar stats in the clinching and grappling and be able to take Yanan down and get some control time over muscle around, because Edwards is kind of a similar fighter. I think she has actually better grappling technique by far than Gina Mazzani, and she complements it with her strength. I think a lot of her technique, like the technique is there, but a lot of times she muscles her techniques in to get positions, which is not a good thing when you start going against higher competition, but as going against Yanan, I think it's good enough. So I feel like she can force some grappling attempts against Yanan, who's not the most technical grappler herself. In matter of fact, I think Edwards is the more technical grappler. I think Edwards packs more power in her punches, though her pacing could get a little bit off. But I feel like with the power of Edwards, the striking she has, her arsenal, I think she has the better arsenal and the better power. And her strength, I feel like she can lead the dance against Yanan, who won't be as strong, won't be as good of a grappler, and won't be, like I said, won't be as strong, won't be as good a grappler, and is good of a striker. She'll have a height advantage, but I think the reach will be more important in this one, and how Edwards throws the strikes will be more important, and how she implements her game, landing big shots, and then forcing her will upon Yanan. But competitive fight, but I think Edwards mixing in grappling attempts and getting control time in there, landing the heavier shots, I think it leads to Edwards getting a decision. So in this one, I have Jocelyn Edwards via decision. Now to our prelim headliner, we have in the middleweight division, Phil Hawes versus Nasruddin Imavov. So you got two solid guys right here. Hawes, who had, his setback with his 2 setbacks, and then maybe even 3 setbacks, because he had that setback, because Ultimate Fighter, Contender Series, and even in the World Series fighting our PFL, he had a setback. So, at least 2, if not 3 setbacks, maybe more in his career. But now he's finally starting to blossom. Now he had 2 big wins under the UFC banner, one on the Contender Series and one in the UFC, both highlight reel knockouts. Nasruddin Imavov on the end came in pretty good and showed a good showing of himself in his first UFC fight, but there was flaws. And I'm not going to try to, get into complimenting each of these fighters and try to build off that. I'm going to go into what I see and why I see who's going to win, what flaws were shown in the fight. Phil Hawes hasn't really shown much flaws in his last 2 fights because they've been quick knockouts, but you want to see if he can go longer. That's a concern. Will he fade? He's a very explosive fighter. Will he fade if the fight's a war? Will he fade if the fight goes long? And will he fade if his power doesn't work the way he's been working, or things don't go the way they've been going? That's a concern, but we got question marks. But on Imavov, we got, on Nasruddin's side, we have seen issues over the course of the fight. In the last fight, he fought a guy who wasn't the best striker, was a wrestler for the first and for the most part, and green in the striking, and he was getting tagged up by that wrestler. Was Jordan? Not Jordan Wright, but he's getting tagged up by the wrestler. And now you're going against Hawes, who is finally starting to click. His striking started to come together. He's starting getting composed, and he's not just a one-dimensional wrestler like he was a lot of times when he lost. When a lot of those losses, like Julian Marquez, he was fighting as a wrestler, and when the wrestling wasn't working for him, it was then for him. When he fought on the Contender Series, was fighting as not contender, we fighting Ultimate Fighter, a wrestler. But the Phil Hawes of now is not the Phil Hawes of the past. So you can't just say, it's because cardio. I think now it's because his skill set wasn't really rounded out. Now his skill set's rounded out. I think he's a better wrestler than Imavov, and I think he packs much more power. And I think his striking is actually cleaner than Imavov. Imavov can do all this spinning stuff and all this other stuff, but his striking defense is mediocre and it's terrible. And you let a guy with little to no experience in the striking tag him up until pretty much he started to gas out, and then Imavov started to work. And you can't be that sloppy in the striking on a guy that hits this hard and that's this explosive, and now it's starting to click. You can say better striker. I'm going to say Phil Hawes, in my opinion, is the better striker than Imavov. Imavov showed a lot of sloppy. I don't care if somebody do a triple round 360 kick. A lot of these guys out here can do all this stuff, but their striking is sloppy. And Imavov is not going anywhere in any division fighting like he fights. He needs to work on that. Definitely needs to work on it. But I guess maybe he's fighting a wrestler in his last fight, so he forced to strike more, or because he maybe didn't want to implement the wrestling too early. I mean, he did wrestle, but when you're fighting another wrestler, sometimes it throws your game off. It's going to be the same thing. you can make that excuse, but it's still going to be the same thing. You're going against another wrestler, a better wrestler than before, and a better striker, and a better overall MMA fighter than before. Yes, you'll be like 6'3", but that didn't stop you from getting tagged up in your last fight. He's still a tall fighter who don't got the defense isn't where it should be, and going against Hawes with that lack of defense and allowing himself to be hit that much. Unless maybe in his thing he worked on his head movement, his footwork, which I doubt. All right, to the extent that he needs to work on it, I think it's gonna be a case of where you can't be playing with fire that much or allowing yourself to be tagged that much by bombs, and he gonna get put out. That's all I see. I see it's like a competitive fill out process, but in Hall's landing early, but Imavov being in the weather, but eventually you only get so many chances to survive bombs. In the second round, he'll be weathered. He'll be feeling that damage, and then Hall is gonna go in attack mode, find that opening, and put him out. So I just see him finding that opening, landing the heavy shots, and making and having him weathered after that first round, and then really kind of just being on almost one leg in that second round after wearing the damage and being more susceptible to the knockout. And then Hall's finding that knockout within 2 minutes of that second round. So in this fight, I have Phil Hawes via second round TKO. And that concludes my fight predictions for the prelims of UFC on ABC 1, Holloway versus Kattar. And as always, thanks for watching.